welcome to Winchester News Online. I'm John Wilson. Coming up, we report from a murder scene in Surrey. But first, income tax threshold rise, pints a penny cheaper and September fuel duty rise scrapped. George Osborne has delivered his eagerly anticipated budget, but how well did it go down in the city?
I think he's been helped by general economic recovery. I don't think he's necessarily been instrumental in making those changes.
I think he's done a fantastic job, but he'll never get any praise for it, will he?
I think in terms of social conscience, he's not been too wonderful. In terms of the general state of the country's finances, I think he's come out rather better than most people expected. Certainly he's done better than I expected.
The Chancellor announced a welfare spending cap, support to build 200,000 new homes and a £7 billion package to cut energy bills. Straight after his speech, Winnell spoke to two local MPs, starting with Winchester and Chalmers-Ford's Steve Brine.
I was very impressed. I sat there right behind the Chancellor. I didn't expect fireworks. I didn't expect there to be gimmicks and headline-grabbing initiatives. It was a workman-like budget. He worked hard to get that personal allowance up to £10,500 from next April, which is something, we as a coalition are very proud of. I've been arguing for that in government since I was elected. Also, lots of help for families across the board, but as part of our long-term plan. Pensioners have said to me they've struggled a long time now with low interest rates, so there was help there at the centre of the budget for savers. Also, there was help from business have been saying for a long time they want to help young people back into work, so he extended the apprenticeships for business scheme. So, they were just some of my highlights, but I think he put exports at the centre of the budget, he put families at the centre of the budget, tax cut for just over half of the people that I represent in the constituency. He took another 400 people out of tax altogether. So, he did what he could, he lived within its means, it didn't have any fireworks, it was just a workman-like budget.
I'm extremely pleased about the increase in the personal allowance, because that's been a Lib Dem policy ever since I can remember, and what I'd like to do also, of course, is get that up so no one on the minimum wage pays income tax, because it's a bit silly, isn't it? On the minimum wage, surely you shouldn't pay tax, so that's what I'd like to see next. I'm very pleased about Steve Webb's reforms to the pensions, because the pension system was horribly complicated, it was unfair, and it meant if you retired 1 year, you might get a load less than your brother who'd retired 2 years before. So I think this is much, much fairer the way they're doing it now.
An 82-year-old man has been charged with the murder of two women in Farnham. Their bodies and those of 4 puppies were found at a dog breeding farm on Sunday morning. Our chief correspondent, Alex Delaney, was at the scene.
In this home off Crooksby Road near Farnham, Surrey residents Christine and Lucy Lee were found dead, along with the bodies of 4 puppies. Police arrested an 82-year-old dog breeder who has now been identified as John Lowe of Tilford in Farnham. Police were called around 10 a.m. on Sunday morning following reports that gunshots had been heard at the property. The bodies of a 66-year-old woman and a 40-year-old woman were found, along with the corpses of 4 puppies. Police say all of the dead appear to have suffered gunshot wounds and a firearm was later found at the scene. The officer leading the investigation said, "It is extremely sad that 2 people have lost their lives and police liaison officers are working hard to support their relatives and friends at this very difficult time." Mr. Lowe has now been charged with 2 counts of murder and possession of a firearm with intent to endanger life. He is due to appear at Guildford Crown Court later. Alex Delaney, Winchester News Online, Farnham.
Less police on the street, a fear for many, and one that may become a reality as 500 jobs are to go from Hampshire Constabulary as the government cuts the constabulary's annual budget by £25 million. Our crime correspondent Tom Wright reports.
Knocking down the spending. Budget cuts aren't new to Hampshire Police. Since 2010, the force has had to save £55 million, resulting in nearly 1,000 jobs being cut. A further cut of £25 million means that over 500 police officers' jobs could be gone by 2017. The chairman of Hampshire Police Federation thinks it's the public who will be hit hardest by the new cuts.
I think policing is in crisis. I don't think when it comes to policing the cuts have been fair, and what we are now noticing is that they are having a dramatic negative impact on the service that we can deliver. So I don't think it's been fair.
The Home Office says crime in Hampshire has fallen by 23% since 2010. In a statement it said, "Forces have risen to the challenge of doing more with less, but there is no question police will still have the resources to do their important work." Speaking at the Compass meeting earlier this month, the Chief Constable reassured the public that frontline policing remains his #1 priority.
I'm sure that the public that speak to you would say some similar things to me that actually don't cut our frontline numbers, protect them. So actually in dealing with that first cohort of change, what we did was lean down as much of the back office as we could.
In the wake of new cuts, Hampshire Police Federation is anticipating a long journey ahead. Tom Wright, Winchester News Online.
To flooding, Winchester residents are battling the rising River Itchen with sandbags and water pumps. Our environment correspondent Megan Fisher meets those giving it some welly.
Water Lane is living up to its name with flood defences piled high. Living in the city centre has been difficult this week as houses continue to be battered by bad weather. Volunteers have been filling tons of sandbags to cope with flooding as water levels continue to rise in Winchester. Firefighters claim that these sandbags should stop rivers soaring over the land for another 2 foot. Schools are closed and communities have been cut off, despite helpers working throughout the last few days.
So the more we can kind of do here and get some sort of normality back to everybody in the local area, then the better.
Fire crews from all over Hampshire have been called in an emergency plan in the fight against the weather.
Residents have been positive. There's some action. They've been seeing some action going on, and it's always better to see something happening than actually nothing at all. Most of all, it's been fairly positive across the board. I think people are just happy to see us that something's being done.
Local residents are doing their bit to tackle the floods. Although they praise the workforce, they claim that they are not being given full attention from the council.
The workers and the city engineers and the main workers have been brilliant. They seem to be available 24 hours a day, and they've certainly been very, very helpful and doing their best. I think it's probably higher up the food chain where decisions become more political that are causing the problems. And we feel we're being sacrificed to save public buildings in the River Park area.
The rain is expected to get worse, with amber weather warnings for gales, leaving Water Lane even wetter. Megan Fisher, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
Eversley residents are concerned with the number of HGVs serving a new recycling plant. The centre currently converts 25,000 tonnes of waste a year. The new technology should allow up to 98% of waste to be recycled. Our correspondent Laura Allen reports.
A demolition contractor has invested £2 million in the construction of a waste transfer facility in Eversley. It's the biggest investment the company has made in its 20 years of trading. The centre will house the latest machinery, and the waste being processed indoors will reduce noise and dust pollution.
We're here to try and help the environment and not damage the environment. So by building and housing this facility inside a new 2,500 metre shed is a way of protecting the surrounding countryside. It makes it very tricky that we have to do this style of waste in such a nice area, but being housed inside now, it's the best possible outcome for everybody.
However, locals are not too happy with the new plant and are concerned with the number of heavy goods vehicles going through the village.
People here who walk their children to school, they are worried about the impact of the heavy vehicles on their lives, and it makes it very difficult for people to simply cross the road or carry out day-to-day things like going down to the shop or whatever because of the number of heavy lorries. And it's actually a quality of life issue.
Our collard has also received planning permission from Hampshire County Council for an additional site focusing on washing aggregate. Developments will start later this year. Laura Allen, Winchester News Online, Eversley.
Now across to Drew Richardson on the sports desk.
AFC Tottenham took on St Neots Town at the Testwood Stadium on Saturday. The Stags were looking to end a run of 5 straight defeats, a tough ask against a side who have won their last 3 games in a row. Joe Rutherford has the action.
The last time these two sides faced each other, St Neots came away with a 6-0 win, and it looked to start in the same way when Jake Woolley gave the away side an early lead, cutting in from the right-hand side and releasing a ferocious shot. Tottenham responded well and were awarded a penalty when Harrison Gilks ran at the heart of the St Neots defence and was subsequently brought down by Ben Farrell. The Bournemouth loanee then stepped up to take it, driving the spot kick into the top left corner. Minutes later, Lewis Hillard's deflected shot fell to Simon Thomas, who was able to simply pass the ball across goal to Shane Tolley for an easy tap-in. Tottenham's hard work was undone by some slack defending, leaving Tolley completely unmarked at the back post. But Tottenham fought well and found their equaliser shortly before half-time. Zach Mooland reacted the quickest and was left with a tap-in to score his 6th goal of the season. The second half did not live up to the expectations left from the first. Tottenham's left-back Drew Bridge came closest to scoring without really troubling keeper Nathan Abbey. Lewis Hillard's late effort summed up a frustrating day for St Neots as the game finished 2-2. Joe Rutherford, Winchester News Online.
Over 600 people set out for the 10k road run in Winchester at the weekend, despite fears during the week that the event may be called off due to bad weather. Ravina Gattora has more.
Swarms of runners gathered in Winchester for the 32nd annual 10k road run, but this year seen a record low turnout due to recent flooding, with fears that it wouldn't even take place at all.
We're really happy considering the weather. I mean, it stopped a lot of people running for the last month or so. The numbers dropped, but they're on their way back up again. So we had about 600 or 700 today. So we're quite pleased, all things considered.
Some of the runners were running for charities, whilst others used the race to train for longer distances.
Well, I'm training for a half marathon, which is in 2 weeks, so it's a bit of a shame it's been so wet because I've been doing most of my training in the gym on the treadmill, but hopefully now I've got some dry weather to be out on the road again, which is good. I finished in 40 minutes, so pretty much dead on, which is probably, I think, my best I've ever done, so pretty chuffed with that, yeah.
Sponsors were hoping to raise some money. However, like the weather and entry numbers, it was a disappointing turnout.
If I'm honest, I had no idea what to expect. We've never been involved with anything like this before. I think we would have hoped to raise some money, and we have raised very, very little. But we've been seen. That's valuable to us.
Even though the event was nearly called off, organisers battled on against the weather and are hoping for a bigger and better turnout next year. Ravina Gattora, Winchester News Online, Winchester.
That's all from sports this week.
Thanks, Drew. Finally, Sparshalt College has heralded more breeding success with the arrival of a rare type of species known as the tenrec. Our environment correspondent, Hildy Cruikshank, visited the only place in the UK to breed the spiky animals.
So this is a Highland Street tenrec. They're originally from Madagascar. They came to our collection nearly a year ago now.
So we're here at Sparshalt College, where they've successfully bred a rare species of tenrec.
Starting off with 6 animals, the college has worked on the husbandry, temperature and nutrition to be able to breed them. 3 young were born towards the end of last year, bumping the collection up to a total of 9 animals.
I wasn't even expecting to breed. I just thought if we can keep them alive, that would be a success. We're the only collection in this country that keeps the Highland Street tenrec, so that is quite an unusual animal and one you won't see anywhere else. There's actually only one other zoological collection in the world that keeps this species currently.
Students and instructors will continue to work at developing a good breeding environment for the tenacious tenrecs to increase the number of animals and possibly start a breeding program in the UK. Hilda Cruikshank, Winchester News Online, Sparshalt.
That's all from Winchester News Online, but for more award-winning news, sports and features, log on to winnall.co.uk. Goodbye.